I think there's two. So I think you've hit it kind of in the middle there.
Okay.
So execution is one thing, but the skill level of what we attract in the business. For instance, I had a dealer. I'll just tell you a little bit of a story. I had a dealer who had an issue with keeping lot people employed at their store. Lot people, $15 an hour job.
Yeah.
He would have issues with them not showing up to work, not coming to work on time, leaving early, disappearing throughout the day. And I made the suggestion to him, why not make that a little bit higher paying job and attract the type of people that you want who can earn a living and still execute for you? Because the amount of money that you're losing on paying a $15 an hour guy who's not showing up and not being productive, how much money are you really saving?
Hello and welcome to another edition of the After Hours with Jay podcast, your late night source for cold beverages and hot talks. Tonight, Jason is chatting with Big Mike of Queensway Honda. They'll be jamming about the process and the impact it has on your team. Grab your month-end ale and get ready for your late night host, Jason Harris.
Sales, marketing, automotive. Jason Harris has done it all. This is the After Hours with Jason podcast. After Hours with Jason podcast is sponsored by DDS Beer Club. Beer specifically crafted for hardworking sales professionals. Find out more at ddsbeerclub.ca.
Hey, Big Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to come meet with me tonight. I really appreciate it. I'm super excited about deep diving into dealers' processes and best practices. And, this is a place that we both, we live in this space. So I'm super excited to get into this. For everybody out there that don't know who Big Mike is and how you kind of got started in the automotive industry, can you give us kind of that two minute origin story that is Big Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. Started my career in the sales floor. I was one of the top salespeople for VW in Canada when I first started, my second year in the business.
Nice.
It was a fun time. Selling cars was a passion of mine. I loved the product. Mm-hmm. And I decided one day that I could do the job better than my manager could. And I moved up in the world. I decided to become a parts manager at an Audi store. So that's where my analytical background came from, analyzing parts inventory, looking at operations and working closely with service department. Was a business development manager for a few years. Mm-hmm. Was implementing dealership website upgrades and lead management, things like that. Then got into the used car realm because found out that my analytical skills as well as my lead management skills and my processes led me to become a used car manager. Decided to do that role for several years, then moved into a GSM position, general manager after that, and decided that I wanted to work closely with a manufacturer improving operations, because I seen, much like you see, mm-hmm. On a day-to-day, the difficulties dealers face in just understanding how their business is run.
Sure.
There's a lot of working parts in the car dealership. So I was approached by Honda Canada to assist them with used vehicle operations in some of the top stores in Canada. That's where I am today, working with some of the top Honda stores in the country. It's very rewarding to see dealerships with the aha moment. I call it that aha moment.
Oh, no, it's got to be cool. I mean, I geek out over analytics. Like, mm-hmm. I just can't stand someone saying the words "I feel" or "I think." Something. It just that drives me nuts because I've never operated that way. Right. It's like I need to know why my business is running this way. Why my service department has these unpaid hour issues. Why my parts department has an obsolescence.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't ever want to use that.
It's the way we've always done it.
Yeah,
that's the phrase that gets me every single time.
I know, and that drives me nuts.
It might have worked 20 years ago, guys.
Well, the cool thing is that when you really understand those numbers and deep dive into those analytics, then you can let those analytics to start to give you process development portion.
That's right. Yeah.
So, and I know that's what a lot of tonight's is going to be, is about dealership's process, which I'm super excited to get into, because I just think it's a space that we don't talk enough about. And you know what it is right now, especially going into the season that we're going into right now, is that, look, we're in a plateau season of sales.
That's right.
Car
sales is
I've said that on many different podcasts, and it's like, tough guys, there's like, Jason, you're just repeating yourself. I don't really care. But it's true. We are, this typically happens. We have about 4 years or 3 to 5 years of prosperity, double-digit gains, and then just like normal, and there's nothing wrong with it, is we plateau. Yes. And I think what we're going to see is the next couple of years is a couple of years of just plateau. If you have manufacturers, including Honda, that are looking at very minuscule gains or flat numbers, and in some manufacturers' cases, even reductions, even some reductions.
We might see some corrections in some of the manufacturers that have had those big gains over the last few years. Honda is anticipating smaller gains over the next few years.
Yeah, and I think that's totally normal. That's
the perfect that's leading us into why I exist in the Honda realm.
It's perfect timing to dive into your process.
If I look at stores that have a weak used car operation, and let's face it, the used car operation in today's marketplace is like the redheaded stepchild. It's something that is not.
I don't understand why is that.
I don't understand either.
Because it feeds so many departments.
Exactly. It's attached to every department in the store. Mm-hmm. It affects every department in the store. Used car department is the difference between being profitable in your service department's internals and parts internals. Appraising cars. Are reappraising cars for wholesalers to buy them? And that's a funny thing that we look at in today's marketplace. You take a look at ADESA. Mm-hmm. ADESA selling cars at 98 to 100% of market value.
I know, it's insane. I recently went with a client of mine to the auction, and just because we were hanging out, we had lunch, and then it was Wednesday, so the auction was running. So I'm like, I'll tag with you. I haven't been for a few years, right? Yeah. You know what's funny? I went there. I couldn't recognize a single one of the players.
Right.
It's like everything's changed.
A lot of U.S. buyers.
The amount of people I was blown away by.
Yeah.
And I was putting numbers on cars just in my head as they're going through the lane, and then watching it, I'm like,
where's the profit?
I must watch 5. It was actually some Civics. I went retail. Damn near retail. I mean, I would just I still got to recondition this damn thing, but also
recondition it to Honda standards.
Well, yeah, exactly. To manufacturers, manufacturer standards.
So it's funny. We always talk to dealers about the Honda Canada or manufacturer standards. What we don't realize is Honda Canada invests a lot of time and a lot of effort into finding out what the customer standards are.
Sure.
So Honda Canada standards aren't our standards.
No, it's just what the customer expectations are.
So the manufacturer is trying to convey to the dealers what the manufacturer is receiving from the clientele.
Sure, of course.
So, as we have advocates in the marketplace, dealers who try to skirt around the responsibilities of what their customers are actually looking for in regards to trade appraisals, reconditioning standards, to resale. I find that dealers have a big problem with acquisition in today's marketplace. Acquisition is their biggest struggle.
Acquisition is, I believe, one of their biggest struggles.
Yeah.
And not only that, but also because they don't also utilize the tools that are at their disposal very well as well.
Tools, process. Acquisition is a process.
But it also goes down to the used car manager.
Right.
I think what a used car manager is today is vastly different than what it was 5 to 10 years ago.
It's funny you say that, because I don't think there is a used car manager in today's marketplace.
I believe it's more of it's almost more a facilitator than anything. I mean, correct. I remember, hiring used car managers was based on the thickness of the Rolodex.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You were paid directly as used car manager based on the amount of money your wholesalers would be willing to give you for some of this stuff.
That's correct,
so
because that was the acquisition strategy.
That was the acquisition strategy. Now with technology, that's not the case. I mean, I find that used car managers are becoming more and more marketing people than they are anything because of gross profits being so slim that you need to have a very substantial differentiating factor in these vehicles or in the way that you market these vehicles. Otherwise, you're
Pictures,
screwed.
Description, and it's funny enough.
I still can't believe it's 2019 and we're talking about that shit.
We're talking about descriptions. We're talking about descriptions in 2019.
2019.
I am absolutely when I go into a dealer and tell a used car marketer, because that's what I'm going to call them today.
That's actually a really fair way to put it. I agree with you.
A used car marketer. I want to see the dealership blow up that position into 1 to 3 people. Smaller stores, one person, but not having that traditional, armchair appraisal guy. Someone who knows how to use technology and gauge the market for its effectiveness.
Yeah.
Because the market does dictate price today. The dealership has no control over market value. Something is only worth what a customer is willing to pay for it, and that's what the market dictates. And
someone has the ability to really tell a story, all right, and understand how these stories need to be told. There's a gentleman out there that I'm going to give a shout out to because I think he's literally fits the bill of what I think a used car manager is today.
Yeah.
And his name's Skinny. Well, he goes by Skinny. Everybody calls him Skinny over at Coburg Nissan.
Okay.
If you guys get a chance to check out Skinny, I know you're going to comment on this one.
Yeah.
Skinny on...
Shout out to Nick Palalis, too.
Oh, you got another one, too? Okay,
Nick
so we got a couple
Palalis
of
is the
examples.
general manager of Coburg Nissan.
Oh, yeah. So look, there's a lot of...
Skinny came from a Hyundai store?
I believe so.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So
Look at this. This industry is
so small.
It's so small, but really not.
Right.
It's like it's large, but not really, and it's just like we all know each other. But look, if you look up Skinny. Skinny is not what a typical used car manager looks like. He's not suit and tie kind of a guy.
Yep.
He's a shirts and sweater, shirt and jean kind of guy. But what he's really good at is just really merchandising the crap out of his inventory.
Yes.
He understands that.
Right.
He also understands how to price it because he utilizes all the technology at his disposal. But he's phenomenal at telling the story and how to tell that story and where to tell that story. So, he goes out and puts a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12-minute video in some cases about the car that just came in, right? And really
And he's doing that
tells
himself.
every single car that comes in the door,
interesting.
right?
Wow.
And so he really takes this active role. But then all in that, when he executes on that creative as well, and then engages with customers on all social media platforms where he's putting out these stories, and that's what he calls them. He calls them stories. He doesn't call them cars. Mm-hmm. He calls them stories, and I think that's actually the appropriate term to use, right? Because this is still the one differentiating factor with used is that it's used. And I don't care if there's 277 used Civics out there. Each one of them got a different story.
That's right. No two used cars are the same.
They're not.
And that's why I love this part of the business. It's I can sell you an Aegean blue Civic Touring, just like the next guy at no profit. But when I have one that's got, 57,000 kilometers and everyone else has got one for 85,000 K, I got a competitive edge. But if I don't tell that story on that particular vehicle, take a look at Auto Trader. Auto Trader owns the marketplace right now. Couple of competition, but I really don't think competition from Auto Trader is competition. It's kind of outliers, people who are annoyed with Auto Trader.
Yep.
But when we go into stores and we talk about the 150 characters, people look at me with the side look on the face going, what are you talking about? What's the 150 characters? Do you know what an SRP is? Let's start with that. Let's go to basics. What's the search results page? How do you market on that particular realm?
But see, the problem is the reason that we have this epidemic issue is a lack of process.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Is that we, and I'm saying we, the owners, okay, because I am, guys, I'm calling you out a little bit, is that we've not actually sat down and defined, all right, the processes for our used car department, and therefore let those processes dictate the individual that's going to execute them.
Right.
And once you really define out those processes, you might find that the person that you have on board may not be the one that's going to execute on it. And I know there's going to be some pain issues there.
There's going to be a lot of pain issues
there.
Yeah.
But look, it doesn't really matter what you think. Bottom line is the industry's changed. The consumers changed. We're looking for more.
I always ask dealers this one question, which I think is kind of amusing. If you were to lend me $5 million of your money, and I told you I didn't have a high school diploma or I didn't have experience in today's marketplace, would you lend me $5 million?
$5 million's on the small side in some cases.
In
too.
some cases, right? That's just a very small used car inventory level. I mean, it's not that large at all. But they always give me the same answer. Well, no. Then why do you have someone uneducated running your used car department?
Because we still have this old process. We still think it has to do with wholesale. We still think it has to do with Rolex. Right. We still think it has to do with who you know.
Yeah.
But in reality, a used car manager, and same for new car manager and parts manager and service manager, it's not necessarily what you know. It's how well you can execute what you know.
Yes.
Because we can teach you. right? We can teach you the activities that are required, right, to meet those processes, and we can develop you so that you do better at those activities, and those activities get better. And we can coach you one-on-one, so that personally you are able to evolve those processes to your personality and yourself. But we just don't ever we just don't go that far. It's just we're not hiring people based on their execution. We're just hiring based on what the resume says.
Well, and so that's a good point, because I find dealers will hire on resume for low skill, low pay. So the pay grades that they want to pay these people, we're talking about multi-million-dollar businesses here, and we're talking about talent pools that are ever shrinking in our industry, and we don't want to step up and pay the people who are worth the money. We would rather allow someone with the inexperience to run a department and then cry poor at the end of the year.
Yeah, so I wonder, I'm trying to think really at the end of the day, why does this ultimately end up happening? And I think
misinformation.
Is it misinformation, or is it a lack of goal setting? I mean, or is it they've set the goal, but then they just don't develop out the processes necessary to actually help meet that goal? Or is it, I'm just trying to think, is an education or is it an execution thing?
I think there's two. So I think you've hit it kind of in the middle there.
Okay.
So execution is one thing, but the skill level of what we attract in the business. For instance, I had a dealer. I'll just tell you a little bit of a story. I had a dealer who had an issue with keeping lot people employed at their store. Lot people, $15 an hour job.
Yeah.
He would have issues with them not showing up to work, not coming to work on time, leaving early, disappearing throughout the day. And I made the suggestion to him, why not make that a little bit higher paying job and attract the type of people that you want who can earn a living and still execute for you? Because the amount of money that you're losing on paying a $15 an hour guy who's not showing up and not being productive, how much money are you really saving?
Mm-hmm.
So what did he end up doing? He ended up putting an $18 an hour guy on the lot. He's been there for 16 months. 15, 16 months now, almost a year and a half. And he's hired 2 additional guys at that inflated rate. When they usually pay $15 an hour, he's paying them $18, and he has a solid team now.
Well, I agree. I agree to some level. I think you do, and it's at a certain point, get what you pay for.
Right, exactly.
Right? But on the flip side of it, I have seen people get overpaid.
Well, that's the lazy factor. That's the two sides of the equation.
If I think that we develop the process, we pay on someone's ability to execute that process,
and that's
all right. And then that's where that fine space is.
Right.
It's just like the better you execute, the more money you make. See, I think what it is that we almost develop out our pay structures before we even develop out what process we actually have.
And that's you're absolutely right.
It's like what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Yeah. It's just like in this case, it's just we are putting a pay structure, and we're trying to let that pay structure define what the processes are. It's like the quick fix is let's just replace the pay structure.
Exactly.
It's not actually, let's deep dive into our processes and actually see what's broken here, right?
Well, it's funny you say that, because when I'm working with dealers, the first thing I ask when I'm analyzing financial statements and looking for their areas is what's your pay plans? Mm-hmm. We're trying to execute a plan that you've enacted. You've come up with an action plan. You've said, this is my goals. Mm-hmm. Because this is what I do on a daily basis. I ask dealers to come up with action plans and measurable goals. And then I sit down and I speak with the used car manager. He goes, Mike, you know what? I'm not really paid like that.
Okay.
I'm sorry? I'm sorry. What just happened there? So your owner has a goal, he wants to execute an action plan, but you're not willing or committed to that action plan because that will harm your pay.
Pretty much.
That's what we see on a daily basis.
I see that all the time.
And it's funny because, changing the pay is always the go-to. Sure. Let's penalize them. Let's take away money from them. but we don't actually reward them for the actions we want to
Because we're
see.
expecting that the pay structure will dictate the process when it needs to be the
No,
other way around. The
that's
process
exactly right.
needs to dictate the pay structure.
Yes.
All right, that's how you get a win-win.
Yeah.
But so let's talk about process development, because I'm a huge fan of process development, right? And the reason that I was kind of forced to be a huge fan, okay? When I had my Mitsubishi dealership, all right, for me to make money, just to make money, all right, I had to close 45+% of the time. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't if, ands, buts about it. I just had to.
You had to.
I was only going to get 100 to 120 people walk through my dealership on a monthly basis.
Okay.
That is what it was. And look, it was a Mitsubishi dealership. It was a used car lot with a flag out front, right?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Right. This is what I was
There's
getting.
only a
I could
finite
spend-
amount of Mitsubishi customers.
and no amount of money, in marketing. Sure, some of my marketing efforts can help me increase some of that floor traffic, but not in enough of a substantial way that was ever going to offset me having a shitty closing ratio.
Right.
All right. So I understood right out of the gate, I had to close at 45%. No offense, buts about it. Right. So I let that goal define what every single process was going to be. Mm-hmm. Now, not only was my goal to do that, but then I also wanted to create a brand. I also wanted to create an experience out of it as well. Right. So, I wanted to be known as an innovative dealership, a very customer-centric, tech-savvy, innovative dealership. That's what I wanted to be known was. That was my brand, okay?
Right.
And I also thought I was in line with what the manufacturer was a little bit as well, right? So once I had those three kind of goals in place, I let those things literally dictate which every single process I was going to do. All right? It was like I had to close at 45%. I had to be customer-centric, all right? And I had to be innovative and tech-savvy. That's what it was. So, all the way down to the way we answer the phone, to the way we presented a car, to the way I presented payments, to the way we did test drive. I literally would ask myself all right, now I'm going to go develop out my test drive process. All right, how do I make my test drive process meet my 45% closing ratio goal? Mm-hmm. How do I help it meet my customer-centric goal? How is that going to meet my innovative tech-savvy goal? And every single process was completely dictated by those three pillars. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have an option. There wasn't an option. Like, if I was going to make money in this place, there wasn't an option. So I had to do it, right?
Yeah, you figured out the metrics.
Yeah, so that changed things. It pushed things things to the point where maybe even felt us a little uncomfortable. And changed pay structures drastically.
Yes.
I was a salary. All my salespeople were on salary, and they were making a volume bonus.
And that's where I see the industry going, and it's no one's really pulling the trigger. But what do we ask our salespeople to complete as a task for that salary? What we tend to
exactly. See, if you don't define what those processes are, it's not a surprise.
Don't change the pay structure and then say I have lazy salespeople. What do you think about BDC departments today?
Oh, I pretty much grew up in BDC, so I have a huge passion for BDC.
So you have a huge passion for BDC, but BDCs were developed out of the laziness of salespeople.
Well, because they actually don't understand. Again, I've seen so many people out there with the term BDC, but they're not actually.
They're not
BDC.
Actual full-fledged.
What
BDCs.
it is, they're internet departments.
Correct.
All right.
Yes.
It's you guys gotta understand a BDC is literally in the freaking name of what it is.
Right.
Business development, meaning that department is supposed to develop you new business.
Correct.
If it is literally handling incoming traffic, literally a proper BDC should only take maybe 10 to 20% incoming. And it should be 80 to 90% outgoing.
Yes.
Because that is developing business.
Right.
So we have a huge misunderstanding what BDC is.
Well, we look at a BDC department and we mischaracterize that BDC department by looking at the shortcomings of salespeople. Rather than investing in training on salespeople, we have dealers create BDCs, and the BDC isn't what is traditionally as a former BDC manager. My job was to generate leads and monitor them, not
develop business,
not to answer leads and to gain appointments and to track appointments and to do my sales guys follow-up. My job was to develop my salespeople so that they had those skills to do that job.
And I think what it is, and I find a lot of cases where I walk into a dealership and find out that they don't really have a BDC. They have an internet department.
Or a call center.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's incoming.
Yeah.
This is my service BDC. 70% of what they do is incoming service calls.
They book service appointments.
They're not.
You know your website can do that?
Yeah, they're not developing you new business. They're
Correct.
simply handling what's already coming in. Your advisors couldn't handle it, therefore now they're handling it.
Yeah.
But it's a lack of goals. It's a lack of goals. It comes all the way down to the fact that we're not letting our goals define what our processes are.
Yes.
It's that. I mean, I don't know.
I think
where else the disconnect is.
Yeah, it's I'm amazed at how many stores I walk into who don't have a used car target for the year. It's just, we'll sell them as they come.
Well, I'm amazed when I talk to salespeople how many don't have a target for the month.
Maybe you and I we're cut from a different cloth, but that's how I gauged my ability to do my job.
I'm like, how the hell do you not know how much money you're going to make this
Right.
month? Like, really? Like,
You know?
you just like,
How much
you don't even know. Like,
I need to
don't
pay
get
my
it.
mortgage. I need to pay my car bill. I need to pay my insurance. I have to sell 14 cars to cover those expenses. Everything above that is gravy.
That's crazy,
Right?
That's it's like you need to know, right?
Right.
It's like it can't be enough for salespeople just to get by, and that's the other problem is a lot of them just want to get by, but I don't see dealerships coaching them, all right, and developing them out to the sense of, fine, you need 14 cars to get by, but that's not, if that's what your goal is, you're not working for me.
That's right.
Your goal is 25 cars.
Yes.
Because I don't want you to get by. I want you to strive.
I need you to succeed. Your success is my success.
100%.
It's the way it should be done. But I don't see that. You know, we tend to see.
Doesn't show in our pay structure?
No, it doesn't show in our pay structure. But it also it's also there's some resentment. You have a highly skilled and a highly successful salesperson. He's making more than that manager is. And I want that. That's
I do
the way
too. Honestly,
I want him to show me that pay stub going, I made 10 grand this week.
I was a floor manager. I had people that worked for me that were making more money than me. And you know what?
You
Good
gotta
for
be
them because
comfortable
their
with that.
efforts were my efforts.
That's
you know?
right. That's
It's like people, and also I didn't work those hours he did. I wasn't there. I took my days off. I was in management. I took my days off.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
I clocked out when I clocked out. You know, I didn't stay to wait for that next customer to come in the door. You know, so there's a big difference there. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think. So let's talk about now we're talking about what are best practices. How do people get started? Is that here's a thought. Here's something that's been kind of rolling in my head for a little bit, and I wonder what you think about this too. Is it one of the reasons that we can't seem to really grasp goal development within the dealership and then how to develop processes is because there's not actually a team effort among all of the departments? Is that I get a feeling that that's the fundamental issue, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think that everyone is siloed in their own department.
Yeah.
And see, I'm a fan. If I were a business owner and I were the owner of a store and I had department heads that were each pillar of my store, I don't look at them as individual pillars. I look at them as holding up a roof.
Yeah.
That roof can only exist without my structure in place.
Yes.
So therefore, why wouldn't I reward my structure with the fruits of the roof? So rather than saying you get paid off of the profitability of your department, why not pay them off the profitability of the dealership?
Because we need them to work as a team. I mean, I've been in a lot of meetings. You've been in a lot of meetings.
I've headed up a lot of meetings, and I am not a fan of them.
You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
It's like you'll be at that boardroom table, and you got the parts manager on one side, service manager on the other side. You got the new car, used car managers, and you know what? If we probably weren't there, they'd be in some cases fucking fist fighting with each other. You know, there's just such. But I also find. And because I've known owners like this that almost do this purposely. They foster it. They actually breed it. They believe conflict. They believe that this conflict drives a sense of competitiveness. And really what it's not. Like, it's a horrible way to run your business.
It's a horrible work environment to be involved in as well.
Well, so then we go back to why we have such high turnover.
Right.
I mean, come on.
What do you are you seeing the same sort of 70% turnover that we're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's some dealerships out there. I know, right? I know that we're bashing a little bit right now, but what we're saying probably the majority. There are some dealerships out there that are doing phenomenal things.
Right.
I have some clients that are really crushing it
Yep.
in developing out teams, in training, in coaching, you know, and really understanding that there's not a magic diet pill to their operational issues.
Right.
That it's just good old fashioned goal development and process process development. So, but it's becoming harder and harder. I find
that So just to digest what you asked, I think the self-reflection is something that dealers have a hard time doing. What I mean by that is owners have a hard time looking into their operation and not seeing it for what it truly is. They're there in a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
For instance, if we were sucked into the dealership life again and we were sitting there as a pre-owned manager, new car manager, a general manager, we get caught up in that negativity of that environment, or positivity, depending on the type of store that you're at.
Yeah, sure. It's fair enough. It's easy for us to say this stuff because we're not in the thick of it right now.
Right.
So, no, I get
right.
it. I get it.
But I think that's the biggest issue is, sweeping the problems under the rug or coming up with a solution that rather than train our people to do a better job, we tend to create processes or create whole departments to eliminate that problem, which we haven't really eliminated that problem. We just added more expenses to our bottom line.
I know what you're talking about, and I've seen this happen a lot too.
So
is that there's an issue happening instead of addressing the core process.
Correct. Rather than going for the root cause,
we actually just generate a new process that's going to take care of that problem.
Correct. Rather than looking at the root cause of an issue
and I find
identifying it.
I find that unfortunately there's a lot of vendors out there that push that. So
that's how vendors make their money.
They bring these products in.
Yes.
And
$500-$600 at a time.
Right. Exactly. $500-$600 at a time.
Yeah.
And your quick diet pill.
Are we in the wrong business?
No, that's right. That's right. The problem is we couldn't do it. We give too much of a shit. Like we care too much.
We
can't do
right.
it.
We can't. I can't look you in the face and take $500 from you with this newfangled thing that's going to solve your your process problem.
Yeah.
Here's a program that's going to solve your process problem. Well, I have a process problem in the first place. What makes you think I'm going to create a process to use your tool?
Exactly. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about tools because tools are only as good as how well someone utilizes them.
Yeah.
And I think a good best practice is for dealerships, I would say either twice a year on a quarterly basis to really take inventory of the tools that they have.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen some redundancies.
I've seen many redundancies, and it's a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, I was at a dealership, new client that we were doing one of these, kind of a full-blown strategy session, deep diving into their tools and their processes and stuff. And that's how we usually start all of our clients. It's a big meeting. Sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4 hours. Come to find out, there were 3 CRM systems that had been, as far as I could tell, being effectively paid for several years, and not a single person at this point in time, not a single person at the dealership was actually utilizing because someone had signed up for something and then was using. Of course, that person left.
Yes.
So then they were spearheading it. So, but they thought the other people were still using. They weren't. They stopped when the other guy left, and then someone else came in, brought in a second. Like it was. It was to the tune of $36,000 a year, over multiple years, exceeding well over $100,000 of a product and a tool that they never actually had been using, or
which they could probably have used a spreadsheet and mastered that and saved all the money.
Okay, I love that you say that because I had this great meeting. I had this. I know we're just swapping war stories now, but it's fun. I had this wonderful meeting with a large dealer group, and it was for a dealer socket presentation.
Oh, lovely.
Now, by the way, I'm a big fan of dealer socket.
Okay.
I really am. So I'm not.
That's from your BDC days?
Yeah. It's just like, look, for me, I love my dealer. I just love the amount of information and data is there. But let's face it.
The reporting is key.
It's an advanced tool.
Yes.
It is not for everybody out there.
And the lingo for the Canadian dealers is a little bit difficult to understand.
It is.
Which retraining the lingo for them is one of the biggest things that we find as a hurdle. What does that terminology actually mean? A sold deal isn't actually a sold deal in dealer socket.
Well, what did I say to someone else the other day? I told them, I said, "Oh man, that's a beautiful ham sandwich," and he didn't even know what the heck I was talking about.
Get it.
Yeah, I mean, so dealers out there, the Canadian dealers, you don't know what a ham sandwich is. It's a deal that's got so much profitability, both from the front and the back, that it's just kind of overflowing. It's just falling out. Think of this big monster messy ham sandwich, which is crap all over the place. I just remember when I was early in sales, I'd go up. I'm like, "Hey, boss. You hungry? You hungry? I got a ham sandwich for you." It was in the U.S. we did stupid shit like that. Okay, so I'm in this group meeting. Beautiful demonstration of the dealer socket. The guys that did an awesome job of and I kept my mouth shut the entire time. So I'm just sitting in the back. Finally, the dealer meeting ends, and then all kind of finally someone on the side of their eye goes, hey, wait a second, Jason hasn't said anything. Okay, Jason, that's really odd. You usually have an opinion on every damn thing we do during these meetings. Why haven't you said anything? I said, are you guys sure you want to know what my opinion is? Like, yeah, we want it. I said, look, this is an amazing product, and it is a very, very cool tool. But you guys aren't going to use it. In fact, actually, I got a tool for you. All right?
Tell me you taped that guy's response.
I did. That. In fact, actually, it's an old video. I should find it. I handed him over a notepad and a pen. I said, there's your CRM system. Okay. If you can commit your team to utilize this for 30 days, then I think you should start upgrading and taking a look at the next thing. But it's like what it is we go into these processes and we immediately think that we need the Ferrari of processes, the Ferrari of tools. When in reality, we never even started with a bicycle.
Correct. Yeah. We're not even crawling, and you're asking me to launch a spaceship and land on the moon.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that I find very interesting in dealers is the use of their tools, but the misuse is even more prevalent than the lack of use.
So is that the vendor's lack of training and servicing their product? I think in some level it is sometimes.
I think it's definitely has to do with some of the vendor, but it has to do with, let's call her Gloria. Gloria is the one who got the training and who was responsible for training.
The buy-in, the
execution and heading it up. And Gloria is no longer with the company, but no one appointed the new Gloria.
That's exactly what happened in the dealership I was talking about. 3 different CRM systems.
Right?
Who's the champion?
Who's the champion? Who's going to be the person who's going to head this up? Who's the backup when this person isn't available? And again, it goes back to process.
So that's
the process.
That's a good let's talk about best practices. Trying to highlight. I think this is a good place to highlight this particular best practice, because when you bring a tool in, so you can't rely just on your vendor for development and for training. You should have an individual at your dealership that is designated to own this tool, so that you have that next level support actually at the dealership.
Right. And that person who can execute with any support questions that arises, the right person, the person who has the time to actually sit with support or contact support and solve that problem, while the other people are making the money that's required to run the store. Rather than the whole place shutting down. It's a funny. We had a power outage in 2005, 2004. Anyways, there was a power outage, and we were doing deals. We're only dealer in the GTA that was doing deals because we had a backup plan. We had a backup plan. We had a process. What happens when the power goes out? And it's funny enough, the only reason we had that backup plan was because we had power issues from the city of Oakville. So power would go out quite frequently from the city of Oakville. If you don't know anything about the city of Oakville, it's got bad power grid. So we had a backup plan. But we're VW's asking, how are you guys processing deals? The whole Eastern Seaboard's out. We had a plan.
So when it comes to the process, I find maybe at the dealership level, it's not identified necessarily whose responsibility it is. So where are you seeing, because like I said, you've been in a lot of dealerships, I've been in a lot of dealerships, and I've seen, so there are some success stories out there. There are a lot of success stories,
yeah, which we don't talk about much.
I know, we always talk on the negative side. Yeah. So I'm thinking, let's move that direction. What are some of those success stories? How did you see people, who spearheads, who's responsible for process development at the dealership?
It's a mixed bag.
Okay.
I really believe it's a mixed bag. It's got to be someone who the dealer principal or owner has trust in. Not necessarily tenure. I don't think tenure has the clout that it used to. I think it has to be someone who's shown the willingness to execute, even if it was execution in a failure. The ability to execute something. I work with a dealer that had a philosophy which I found very interesting, and this is a dealer that documents every process that they implement, and they don't do anything without documenting it. And if we come up with an action plan, it's put into their process before we implement it, before we even train it. It's written into their playbook, and their playbook is extensive. It's very well thought out, and they have young people executing this playbook flawlessly on a daily basis, and I applaud them for doing this, because the thing that I find very interesting is the dealers who have that trust in their employees are the ones that succeed. And his philosophy is, if I wrote it into the playbook and I lost money, as long as you executed that 100%, how am I going to be upset at that?
Well, see, it's on me. See,
right.
And I agree with you. So that's where I think the owners take responsibility.
And they don't.
I know.
And how much money is enough money for some of these guys?
Yeah, I know. Well, that's true. That's where unfortunately, every failure needs to be owned by the owner. That's my personal.
100%.
I'm looking at it from a perspective of all the successful dealerships I work with. That is a common trait across every single one. It's consistent.
Yes,
is that the owner takes ownership.
Well, he has to.
Yeah,
because he is the leader of that organization. If he doesn't see that failure is his, then he shouldn't really be trying to change anything.
Yeah, and then the execution portion needs to be owned by the managers.
Right.
All right. Now that's where you can hold. Processes needs to be owned by the ownership.
You know what I find interesting? We train salespeople, but we don't train managers on the execution of those sales processes.
No, we just assume that they can.
Right.
Because it's kind of crazy.
You got that title.
You got that title, so therefore you must be an executor.
Yeah, you're exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing you're executing is a 70% turnover rate of your sales staff. That's really what you're executing.
Yeah.
I did sales training for a large dealer group, and it was a weekly basis, and they had a 68% turnover rate. And one of the things that I found interesting was I would talk to these young people full of energy, wanting to do well. They would recruit these guys out of Bell telephone stores, Rogers shoe stores. When Future Shop shut down, we had an influx of people who were enthusiastic, who wanted to do well, who were great salespeople. I don't need you to. I can train any process to anybody. If you're not a salesperson first and foremost, I can't teach that to you.
Sure.
So we would have these people come in, we would train them, and then I'd go visit them at the store 2, 3, 4 weeks later, and I'd see they'd be demoralized. They'd be in their chair, they'd be sitting there like this, and they'd have their phone out, and they'd just be like, oh, hey, Mike, hey, Mike, everything you told me was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. But you know what? That guy there doesn't do anything you said he was going to do.
Well, because we train activities, but then we don't coach on efforts. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
It starts from the top and works its way all the way down.
It does. So do we look at process training from top down? Because what we usually do is we process train from the bottom up,
which is crazy.
Which is absolutely crazy. Right?
It absolutely is crazy.
Why do we roll out a process that we haven't had our managers execute?
Well, no, I agree with you. I think we expect so much of our managers,
right?
That we don't actually spend enough time training them, developing them, coaching them, and then and this is one thing I found too. The dealerships I work with that are uber successful. I mean, I'm talking like really successful. They have a hardcore team development portion, right? Where they actually develop out their team.
Yes.
I mean, these managers get together.
Daily, weekly, monthly
they get together. They send their managers as a team together for training. How to work, just how to work as a team.
Right.
They go to these seminars, and I find how much money we spend on sending our management to these automotive conferences. Just to hear the exact same message as the year before,
right,
is just a little ridiculous. And all they ever end up talking about is about activities, but there's no team. So I push dealerships, don't go to these automotive conferences. All right, I find the concept of a workshop or a team development period that's got some serious value. You can get some real ROI on that. I also think it kind of comes down to is because at the end of the day, we only have so much time, so many hours to put in our efforts-wise, that we're always looking at it from a 30-day return perspective.
Yes, very interesting.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I'm not going to
from
write
hero
a
to
check.
zero.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
it's like I'm not going to write it. I'm not going to sign a check.
Yeah.
Unless this dollar or these dollars are going to go towards my 30-day efforts. Now, I think even manufacturers have started to notice this, and therefore they've actually started to change a lot of things.
That's right.
There's a fair amount of manufacturers that aren't looking at
Quarterly
monthly, but they're looking at quarterly numbers.
offset quarterly programs, things like that.
Does Honda do that? Did they do that?
Honda has some programs that are offset quarterly programs. Honda is not a traditional car manufacturer from any other manufacturer that I've worked with. I have the pleasure of working for Honda at the moment, and it fundamentally, they are a different type of company. The market is changing, and they are changing with it.
Oh, that's exciting.
And it's interesting that they still have some things that they do that I scratch my head at.
It's a big ship. Look, it's a really big ship
right to steer that. Yeah, exactly. To steer a ship like that, you and I are go-getters. We want to get in there. We want to get it done.
Yeah, of course.
And we want it done today. We want it done now.
Yep.
But moving that ship is always, but they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree.
And they don't have the traditional program set up as you would think a manufacturer would have traditional programs, with the fast start money, with the volume bonuses at the end of the month. Honda doesn't look at it like that. Honda doesn't have that philosophy, and I appreciate Honda for that, because it's not about the volume.
It's not about a race to the 31st.
No, it's not. They are a very customer centric company. I don't want to name the company, but I'm sure everyone listening can understand what I'm saying. There's a manufacturer out there right now that's replacing engines at an alarming rate.
Yep.
And that alarming rate, I have a good friend of mine who has a vehicle that just exited warranty. That vehicle, unfortunately, he's paying out of pocket several $1,000s to replace an engine that is a known problem with this manufacturer.
Wow.
Honda has a customer who is $180,000 and 4 years out of warranty, have an engine failure on their car. You call Honda Canada, they'll help you out.
No, and that's their commitment to the customer.
Right.
And the cool thing is I'm beginning to see that commitment to the customer start to trickle down into the processes and the goal-setting efforts that they're putting at the dealership.
Yes.
For a while there, I believe there was a disconnect.
There was a big disconnect because they were order takers.
Yes.
And this is what I hear on a daily basis. Mike, I actually have to sell this car now.
Yes.
And I scratch my head because I never had that luxury of, I started selling Volkswagens when the cheapest VW was $24,975 plus freight, fees, and taxes.
You had to sell the crap out of it.
I had to sell that car. What I was hoping was that the Honda dealership down the road didn't have enough salespeople, and I had overflow customers coming into my store that I could close.
Yep.
That's what I was hoping for. Please let someone call in sick on a Saturday at the Honda store so that...
I was at Mitsubishi dealership. I was the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It was right across the street from a Honda, next door to a Toyota. Yep.
You knew if you seen them, why? They parked their car at the Honda store, walked in for 15 minutes, know that they had... the Honda store that was down the street from me had a buzzer system. Like the bars have?
Yep.
So they had a little buzzer system. I would be signing deals and the buzzer would go up bzzz, on the desk.
Yep.
So sorry, so sad. Let's just throw that in the garbage.
I know.
But that's what we wrestled with. Honda had that run.
Yeah.
And to what we were discussing earlier, the plateau is coming, and the plateau I think will happen this year. And the manufacturers. And
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I really don't. I don't think people need to be afraid of this.
Markets do this on a regular basis.
Yes, they do. It's very, very normal, but it's a great time.
Yes.
And in fact,
it's a time to strengthen your operation.
And that starts with your process.
Developing your processes. You cannot strengthen your operation without developing a process. You can't develop a process unless you identify your problems. You can't identify your problems unless you're looking to look inside your operation. And it starts with someone actually saying, are we running at peak efficiency?
And be honest. See, that's the other thing too. Is
even the top performing stores have issues in process.
Yeah, we have to be honest with it.
Right.
We have to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is, and I've seen this before, don't let your salespeople or your staff dictate what the process is going to be.
That's a big problem.
Because the process is changing. The process is going to change. The manufacturers are changing. Like a lot of things are changing. We need to change with those times. Just because your number one sales guy has been your number one sales guy for the last 4 or 5 years and is consistently putting out 30, 25, 30 cars a month, okay, look, that's fine. But you need to change. You got to own that process.
That's right.
Because that guy can pick up his stuff and leave anytime he wants.
That's right.
He doesn't
What
own
loyalty
it,
does he have to you?
None.
Yes. You have a loyalty. A DP owner has a loyalty to that shingle.
Yes.
And that shingle employs more than just that one salesperson.
Yep.
And that's what we tend to find. We
operate out of fear sometimes. I'm not saying
we
everybody.
operate out of fear, and we also operate out of feelings. Fear is a feeling, but we
Yes.
operate out of feelings. That might hurt somebody's feelings. I appreciate the feelings that are part of the equation here.
Sure, of course.
But your operation is suffering because of feelings.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we have to move past that.
Oh, no, we have to. In fact, so the cool thing is we're getting to a period with the plateau that we're going to be seeing over the next couple of years, is that we don't have a freaking option.
No.
Okay? So the last 4 or 5 years, it's been nothing but prosperity.
Yeah.
All right? And we've been able to get away with what I consider in some cases half-assed or half-pregnant processes.
Highway robbery in some cases.
Yes, that is not going to fly anymore.
As technology becomes more prevalent in the home, as people start to look more and more for digital solutions to human problems, the dealers that really figure out that process on online selling and online catering to customers' needs, I think is where it's going to go. I really believe that information has always been close to the chest.
Oh God, there's a secret sauce.
Yeah, right.
Like no one, you know what, guys? You don't have a secret sauce.
No,
okay.
no.
There's no secret sauce. Okay, a secret sauce doesn't exist.
That's right.
All right. The only thing that your differentiating factor is how well you can execute on it. That's it.
I think. I'm taking words from somebody, but process selling is dead.
Oh, 100%.
Experience selling is the future.
And I'm even pushing beyond that. I actually think branding is the new form of selling.
Well, self-branding, dealership branding.
For me, it's a huge play.
If you can't walk into, and this is something my daughter said to me when she was 7 years old. She felt like her father was the king, because we would walk together in the mall, and people would, "Hey, Mike, how you doing?" And she's like, "Daddy, everywhere we go, people know you," and that was the brand.
My kids have said something similar,
right?
It's
everywhere you go, someone knows you.
Yep.
And it's about the branding. It's about sticking yourself out there, being the best possible you can be, but also making sure that you're uplifting everyone around you.
Well, see, that's the cool thing, is that during this time that we're running into the next year, cream rises.
That's right.
Like it's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's like everyone was kind of able to get away with, I think, like I said, half cocked. Yeah. Right. That you can't do that anymore.
Nope.
Either you're in or you're out.
That's right.
And it's not just in your processes; it's also in your marketing efforts. And it's also in your user experience. There's so many things. You can't be half in on this stuff now.
Do you remember radio ads in the past?
No, I never run a radio ad.
No, but do you remember listening to them?
Yes.
That generic jingle or that generic offer. And this is where I applaud Honda moving forward in the future, is critiquing specific offers to specific customers at specific time.
One of the biggest things I give Honda credit for is their cross marketing efforts with the Blue Jays. Mm-hmm. What they did is they identified an audience.
Yep.
All right, and they wanted to really kind of own that space in that audience. And now Honda is associated. Blue Jays and Honda are hand in hand.
Yeah.
Actually, there was somebody that told me a very funny story about that once, how that all went down. And it was because for a while you guys lost it there. And I believe what ended up happening was during the World Series, they came back and they won, and they wanted convertibles to ride around so that everyone can kind of see them. And I think is that when it went to Ford? I think it's when Ford picked it up.
I'm not sure.
And then it came back to Honda. I actually have to look up the story because the story is actually really, really interesting, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually Ford wasn't willing to put in anymore, and that's when Honda took it back. They originally had it, and then they took it back.
Yeah.
But they've done an amazing job of really developing out content.
Yeah.
The content that they put for the Blue Jays is really cool because it's not with their selfish wants and needs. It is literally there to bring value and entertain the Blue Jays fan.
That's right.
The Blue Jays fan just sees the underlying content as being, sponsored and brought to you by Honda. So I think and dealerships need to take the same thing, and I see now manufacturers doing it as well. Genesis did a phenomenal job of this, right?
Yes, Genesis is an interesting brand.
Do it for the customer, not do it for ourselves. Don't create a process that meets and fulfills our needs. All right, create a process and marketing and messaging that is directly and only designed to meet the customer's needs. We do it for the customer, then we always end up winning.
Specific customer.
Yeah,
and that's the key. I mean, the key is when I look at Facebook advertising today, and I see dealers doing Facebook advertising, I see them doing Instagram posts, I see them really trying to use the digital space, but ineffectively using the digital space.
Well, that's vendors. That's agencies that are screwing this thing up.
Right.
What it is like I literally saw a Chrysler ad the other day for one dealership.
Right.
Saw the exact same one for another dealership.
Yeah.
The exact
Same
same
copy.
Exact same everything on it. The
couldn't
only
tell
damn
A
difference
from
was
B.
just the name on it. That was it.
It was
right?
the name that was in blue at the top of the listing.
That was the only thing that was different
and your
between
thumb
the
is
creative.
scrolling past it just like every other ad that you see, right?
Yeah.
So what stands you apart from your competitors? What stands you apart in your customer's eyes? What is the defining moment? What's that aha moment when a customer engages with you, right? How do we really look at how that interaction happens?
But you know what the craziest part is? That we do this in normal selling efforts. Like when someone comes in, right, to purchase a Honda Civic, right? A Honda Civic is a very unique one because you can have a very young, active lifestyle audience. You can have a family audience where it's a commuter, because we have a lot of commuters where we are. And then you have a retiree audience. Right. And all three of those audiences buy the exact same car. When they come in and we sell the car to them, we cater our presentation and our content to the individual. That's right. But then we
mirror them.
But then we market
to only one aspect.
To one bloody an ad out there, and call
you know
it,
what we find out,
and call it good. But we don't sell that way.
Yes.
Why the hell do we market that way? Is absolutely beyond me.
Well, not only do we not look at how we market that way. Why is it that we I call it the four corners of selling cars: cheap, difficult, affluent, educated. Right?
Yeah.
The type of buyers that we attract with these ads. Have we ever reflected and looked at the marketing efforts that we put forth and actually analyzed the ROI on those marketing efforts? Why is it that
because we roll it all into one. We just bump it into one.
We go after the cheap, difficult buyer and wonder why we're not making any money on this ad.
Oh my gosh, I literally had this meeting a couple days ago. I was in a Chrysler dealership.
Okay.
All right, and there was that one good old boy, and I'm like, I had one of these in a while. I'm so glad. They still believe that internet's a fad. It's like, this is great, right? Yeah. And they immediately start complaining about how all their leads are crap leads. And I'm like, I put my best Alec Baldwin on, and I'm like, the leads aren't crap. You're crap. I'm pretty sure it's another 4-letter word. Yeah. I just replaced that. But I looked at all their marketing efforts. And what do you think all their marketing efforts, the message was driving, was all about the lowest price humanly possible. So why did they assume that the lead generation portion was going to be generating customers that only cared about the price?
And if you start off at a lowball price on your ad, what room do you have when the customer comes in? You have no negotiating left, and you're only attracting the cheap and difficult buyer with those ads.
And the same thing happens with our processes. Yep. So it's not just...
one guy. Remember that one guy?
One guy.
Do you remember that one guy?
I know a lot of one guys out there. Yeah. It seems like everybody's had the one guy.
The one guy. So why do we make a process or stop a process because of the one guy?
See, I think we have to be audience specific in our process, especially when it comes to our sales process. This is something that I'm pushing out there. I still have a lot of people. It's not a matter that we're qualifying them to the product that they're purchasing, because the bottom line, they're already there. They're qualified.
They're qualified,
good, right?
Yep.
Really, what we need to do is we need to qualify them to where they are in the buying cycle.
That's correct.
Right. If they're shopping, if they're
what
researching,
what do you hope to accomplish in today's visit?
Exactly.
That's all you're
or they're
ask.
buying. That we need to have a process that's specific for everyone. I got somebody that comes in and goes, I'm doing research. I'm literally going to clear my schedule for the next 3 hours. And by the time you leave this place, you're going to know the bolt patterns all right,
You're gonna know if those snow tires in your garage fit your car.
That's right. You know what I mean? I'm preparing myself. This is what I'm going to get myself into, right? And then I develop out a sales process that is specific for them. If someone tells me they're shopping, I immediately need to know what they're shopping, and I need to have a very specific process.
Yes.
All right, that helps them through their shopping, not selfishly.
No.
Okay, I'm not going to try to convince them just to buy my product.
Right.
I need to support them and help them do it for them.
And one of the biggest things I find in that sales process that we lack in a dealership level is knowing not only the product that we're trying to sell, but the competitive product that the customer's after. What needs...
We had this conversation today.
Yeah. What needs... when we talk about the meet and greet qualified needs assessment, okay, when we talk about the upside down triangle, when we're trying to get to that money, right? If we're talking about a customer who's in the shopping process and maybe not all the buyers are present and they're trying to gather information, if we don't give ourselves that competitive edge, not by bashing the other manufacturer.
No, we should give them a proper shopping experience.
You give them a proper shopping experience.
Proper shopping experience.
And you emphasize things that the competitors that they are working with or looking at on the consideration don't have. And you emphasize that.
I have a dealer group right now that's really trying to embrace this. Now, again, it's new, all right? Mm-hmm. You go to the Nissan dealership. You know what, but I'm really shopping the Honda. That's cool. Jump in the car. All right. My group owns the Honda street on the other side of town. Yeah. We're going to drive over there and put the cars side by side.
Yeah.
Like,
sure.
What?
Yeah.
Seriously? Absolutely.
Great
You
idea.
buy a car from us. Hey, we're all owned by the same owner. Yep. So let's just make this a really good shopping experience for you. Was there any other? You were thinking about Hyundai? Cool. I'm going to call my buddy over at the Hyundai dealership. He's going to bring one by. Yeah. He's going to meet us there. We're going to look at all three of these cars side by side.
Right.
Like,
amazing.
Can you imagine as a consumer receiving that? Can you imagine what that type of experience would be?
That would be the pinnacle of a sales process that looks at every pillar, not only from an interior store, but not a single shingle, but a multi-shingle.
Yeah.
And that's where I find dealerships that are single store owners are going to be losing out to the dealer groups. If these
that's the opportunity dealer groups have. And so if the dealer groups figure it out, they
how many have?
They can take it. No, not a lot, and they really haven't. Honestly, we don't actually have. I know I get negative sometimes. I don't really care. It is what it is. We don't really have a lot of dealer groups. We have a bunch of group of dealers. And if you understand what I mean,
I know exactly what you're saying.
It's all in their structuring, right? I would love to. Now, there are a handful, I believe in Canada, that do really operate as a dealer group. I think FAF is amazing at that. I think Go Auto's also very, very good at that, right? Yeah. Then their dealerships are, I think Humberview is heading the direction, and I think so is Performance. And there are a handful of out there that I think are heading the direction, and then there's some that are a lot closer to it. Then there are some that it just can't seem to have the discussion properly around it.
I think it's because it's the way we've always done it mentality, and too big too fast. Is there a moment when you can say that a dealer group has expanded past its capacity to manage itself?
Yes, and they actually need to bring outside help.
Well,
I've seen it happen.
Well, I guarantee it happens, and I know it happens. The issue is the self-reflection doesn't happen, and that's where it has to start.
Everything leads back to process. I mean, it's so funny. It's just like we've jammed now for the last hour, and it's just everything.
Every single thing.
Look, it's your marketing, it's your sales process, it's your management team, it's your dealership's goals, it's the work between the service department, the parts department, and then so on with the new and used and how they connect with it. Everything flows back to process.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the oldest professions in the country, and it's still not figured out. I just don't understand it. We can take on-time delivery, manufacture a car within a 24-hour period, but we can't build a process to sell a car to a customer.
I think what it is, and at the bottom line, this is what my thesis is that because the process, the time we spend in developing process, is not in line with a 30-day period. No. So, therefore, we don't put our eggs into the process development basket. Dealers got to get out of that frame of mind.
Yes.
Certain manufacturers are assisting in that and
Yes.
saying that we're not looking at your 30-day numbers anymore. We're looking at your quarterly numbers.
Right.
Right. So they're opening up. It's not a 30-day cycle. Now we're turning it into a 90-day cycle, which I love.
Yes.
Right. And the
Yep.
dealerships and manufacturers out there that are listening to this and you're still in a 30-day cycle, I think you guys need to take note of the manufacturers that have already started to change to a 90-day cycle.
Yes.
Because then we can really start to encourage these dealerships to focus on their processes. And I do believe process development is at minimum a 90-day return, just to put a single thing in, to start seeing
it takes
work.
21 days to form any habit. So
Yeah.
21 days to form any sort of habit. If we don't give that process enough time to work out the kinks, and let's be honest, any new process that we implement in the store, there's going to be unforeseen speed bumps along the way.
Oh, your version 1 is not going to be your completed version.
Right.
By the time you hit your 90-day mark, you might be on version 4, 5, or 6.
But we are still heading in the right direction.
Well, you got to make a commitment.
Exactly. What usually happens is we get to that roadblock and it's an insurmountable wall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Trump put up a wall and we can't get over it, right? And it's you get there and you turn around, you go home, you say, you know what, we're just going to go do it the way we've always done it, and that's where dealers really, in my opinion, have a hard time is thinking outside their proverbial box of living. They live in this little box and nothing can be put outside of it.
Well, look, times things have to change. So let's get practical, and this is a great way, I think, to wrap it up, is to give them kind of our best advice.
Sure.
First thing first, make sure that you have very defined goals and very specific defined goals. I don't want to hear that you guys just want to sell more cars, because no shit, Sherlock, so does everybody else.
Right.
All right. Really get specific on
Yes.
what kind of cars, which
Yes.
trim levels, which it needs to get very, very targeted. You need to do the same thing in your parts department. You need to do the same thing in your service department. Once you really have these goals seriously documented, then you need to document all the existing processes.
Yes.
And you got to make sure that those processes are in line with those goals.
Correct.
So for me, that's kind of step 1, step 2.
I'll take it to step 3.
Do that for me.
What KPIs are we measuring to make sure we're on track to reach our goals?
I'm so glad that you said that, because a process is only as good as how well we can measure its effectiveness.
Correct. You can only manage what you can measure. And the KPIs in today's marketplace are vastly different than they were 10 years ago. They were vastly different than they were 20 years ago. And they're going to be vastly different 5 years from now, because they're going to be disruptors, interrupters in the marketplace that are going to change the way we look at our business.
Of course.
But if we have a goal and we have a process, we need to evaluate how that process in KPIs are moving towards our goal. So if we have an issue with closing our crews, on the Chevy guys listening to this, if we have an issue closing our crews, what's our cruise process?
Yep.
What's our Toyota Highlander process? How each one of those KPIs needs to be evaluated and measured, and daily, weekly, monthly, semi-annually, we have to look at them seemingly on a daily basis.
Well, you have to, and that's where I think systems and tools really kind of come into place.
Yeah.
So, all right, here it is, guys. These are your 1, 2, 3s. All right, and I think that if you guys follow these 1, 2, 3s, from my experience and being as many dealerships as I have, and I'm sure in your experience as many dealerships you have, like, you really take these 1, 2, 3 to heart, you're going to see some serious ROI on your efforts.
Yes.
Just to recap one more time. All right, those 1, 2, 3s is goal development. Yes, you got to get hardcore. Yes. Every single department, very, very, very specific goals, right?
Yes. Right?
Document your process and ensure that those processes are actually designed to help meet those goals.
Right.
Once you have those processes documented, you need a system in place to measure the effectiveness of those, so that you can actually
correct the course.
Exactly. So you can correct the course and alter those processes.
Yes.
Guys, this is step 1, step 2, step 3. Yep. From both of us. You guys follow this. I think you're going to see some wonderful things. Hopefully someone's listening to this, and 6 months later we get a call back, because I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Now, Big Mike, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming out and jamming with me. For everybody that would like to connect with you, what is the best way to connect with Big Mike?
LinkedIn. Cool. Michael Carroll on LinkedIn.
Okay.
You can connect with me. My phone number is 647-688-4561. Anyone looking to text or ask a question, I'm an open book, guys. There's no question I won't answer for you. So if there's any issue you have that you can't, any hurdle you can't cross, I'm an open book. You know?
See, this is what I love when I bring people on here, because I love bringing like true practitioners, and I know for a fact when we finish these things off, I got some true practitioners because they'll just throw it out there.
Yeah.
Here's my number.
Yeah.
Just call me.
Yeah.
Send me a text. I'll chat with you. I mean, I got no vested interest. It's just I'm
not gonna charge you.
Generally interested in seeing you succeed.
Right, and that I want to see the industry better itself.
Yeah.
And I want to elevate this industry above that of what it currently sits at. That, you know, the nasty car salesman. I want to see our industry become a great profession. I think I've chosen a great profession. I think you've chosen a great profession.
Yes.
I think you're trying to elevate it to a level where we can be proud to say we work in the automotive industry. I'm proud to say I work in the automotive industry.
I am too.
Don't get me wrong. But, you know, I see a lot of people who are afraid to ask the question. And mum's the word. I'm not the type of guy who spreads around the other people's business.
And that's why guys like us got to keep it together, man. We just got to keep pushing through and provide this content.
I can't earn dealers' trust if I air their dirty laundry out everywhere. So
I hear you.
It's definitely something we can work on together.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Big Mike. Really appreciate you coming.
It's been a pleasure.
This was fun.
Yep.